Welcome back, all you beautiful people. In this video, I'm going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is free will. It's one of my favorite topics because when you're on the spiritual path, once you get this paradigm shift in your thinking that free will is an illusion, it gives you so much peace, happiness. You don't stress out so much. And I received a comment, which is here, on one of my other videos on free will, and this is what I'm talking about. They're basically saying, they're a super anxious person over the silliest things, and this teaching, this belief is comforting. Also, they mentioned, what does it do to the criminal justice system, which I'll talk about later. But exactly, this comment is what I'm talking about. It's meant to give you a sense of peace, calmness, when you realize it's not a belief that you don't have free will, but it is a fact. Here's another beautiful quote that I love from Mark Twain, which, forgive me, I've got it here, which I'll be reading off because I can't physically see it here now. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. I love this quote because if it sounds a bit confusing, what he's basically saying is when we believe something that isn't really true, that's what gets us into trouble. We think we have free will. We believe we have free will. And this is what gets us into trouble. This is where all the mess starts. Ownership and control, like I mentioned in other videos on ego. But when you realize it's an illusion, again, like I said, a sense of peace, calmness, acceptance comes into your very being. And that's what we're all searching for, aren't we, on the spiritual path? So how is it an illusion? In my other videos on free will, I showed you several examples on how it is an illusion. But here is a really important one that you can do in your everyday life if you're very mindful of what's happening. And I did this experiment for a few days just for this video. And I picked the best day that had the most kind of things happening that were kind of interesting, in quotes, to talk about. And the reason I titled this video, "We Are a Zombie to Our Wants," is because it's true. All we're doing throughout the day is following our wants. And in this video, I'm going to prove how that is the case. Now, forgive me, I've written down what I did for the first couple of hours of the day over here. So if I keep looking here, it's because I'm reading my notes. So how did the day begin? I was asleep. I didn't choose to wake up, but I did wake up. So I didn't choose to wake up in bed. I did. I opened my eyes. I had a full bladder. Now, I wanted my bladder not to be full. So what were my options? Be like a 2-year-old and mess up the bed? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to use the toilet. After the toilet, I was free to do what I want. But I wanted to wash my hands after that. Why did I want to wash my hands? Maybe because growing up, I was always told, wash your hands after the toilet, wash your hands after the toilet. And at that point in my life, I probably was sick of being told, wash your hands. I didn't want to be told it all the time. So I just ended up doing it. Then that formed the habit. So in any case, finished with the toilet, I wanted to wash my hands. As I was washing my hands, I noticed that the soap was empty, the hand soap. It was getting down. In that moment, I thought, I wanted to wash my hands in the future, so I need to go to the store. I also glanced at the toothpaste and noticed that that was empty. That was running low. And wanting to brush my teeth again in the future, again I thought, okay, I want to get soap and I want to get toothpaste. After that was done, I wanted to walk to the lounge room and turn the TV on, watch the news. Also, I wanted to walk over and make a coffee. Why is that? Because that's my daily habit. That's my routine. So I turn the TV on. I turn the jug on. Then I get a text from my father saying, can you call me back? Now, when I looked at the text, I realized the way he wrote the text, it's not urgent. So what I wanted to do was finish making the coffee, sit down, and then text him. Why do I do that? Because, again, I'm a creature of habit. I usually have a coffee. I settle down with a coffee before I do something important, or I settle down with a coffee after I've done something important. Like I said, when I looked at the text, I realized this isn't urgent. So I made the coffee, sat down, and texted him. I should point out here, like I said, this is all happening because of my wants, but imagine if something was slightly different. Imagine if he wrote, call me back urgently, exclamation mark. Do you really think I would at that point want to finish making the drink and sit down? No, I'd call him back straight away. Or if he called me while the coffee was being made, I would be answering it. I'm only saying this to show you that See how we're only responding to our wants and our environment? Like I said, because it wasn't a non-urgent message, I sat down, started drinking, and then texted him. After the coffee was finished, after I texted my dad, I drove down to the shops. I put on a playlist of music that I don't normally put on. And why was that? Because I wanted to hear something different. I've been listening to the same music for several days in a row. So in that moment, I wanted to listen to something different. When I got to the shops, I walked to get the soap. There were many options for hand wash. I was free to choose whatever brand I wanted. If I was very brand loyal, I would have chose the same brand I use all the time. But what am I really loyal to? The price. There was one for half price, so I wanted to get the cheaper one. As I was walking away from the soap aisle, I glanced and noticed my favorite chips were there. Half price. I thought, great deal. I'm going to get 2 bags because they're half price. Then I happily walked to the counter to pay. I paid, I drove home. When I got home, holding the chips and the soap, I wanted to put the chips away first, put them in the cupboard, and then put the soap away. Why is that? Because the kitchen comes first as I walk into the house, and then the bathroom. As I was putting the hand soap away, I glanced at the toothpaste and realized I forgot to buy toothpaste. Why did I forget? My reasoning was because I got distracted by the chips. And even if I wasn't distracted by the chips, if you don't remember something in the moment, you can't control it. If the thought, get the toothpaste doesn't come, I can't control that. Now, I ended the experiment here because I didn't want to make an hour-long video of everything I did during the day because I'm just trying to prove a point. If you really follow what I'm saying, every moment, every action, everything you're doing is governed by your wants in that moment. And like I mentioned with my dad texting, the reason I texted him after the drink was because it wasn't urgent. But if any variable changed, if he called me, if there was exclamation marks, I would have called him then. Also, little things like I walked from the bathroom to the lounge room to turn on the TV with no problem. But just say if I was walking and I felt a sharp pain in my knee, that would have triggered some thoughts in my head like, oh, my knee, what's wrong? That might have changed my whole trajectory of this story. Or imagine if someone rang the doorbell out of nowhere, then I'd have to walk up to them, talk to them. That would generate more thoughts, more plans. Again, what I'm trying to get at is, if you're really mindful, if you really watch this body and mind operate, you'll realize this body and mind is just living a life. It's just living through its habits. It's just responding to its environment. There's no you in there choosing it. It's just like everything else in nature. One thing leads to another. The only difference we have as a human is we have this I thought, I did this. When we believe we're in control, we start thinking everyone's in control. And that's where, like that comment was suggesting, this is where all the feelings of anxiety come in because we feel like, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? You get what I'm saying? When you feel like you're in control, there's consequences. But when you realize life is just happening, you aren't living life. Life is living you. You'll get this sense of peace. Also, I should mention, do we have free will or not? Well, here is the elephant in the room, how I like to view it. It's an elephant in the room when you get into the teachings of non-duality. And what is that elephant? This you you're talking about. Once you realize the I that you're talking about is an illusion, that the essence of you has non-objective qualities, everyone's talking about I did this, I did that. Even ourselves, we're like, I did this, I did that. You realize, what is this I we're all talking about? It's the thing we all talk about, but no one knows what it is. It's once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. That's why it's an elephant in the room when you get into these practices. You start watching people talk and say, I did this, I did that, and then this happened. And you're thinking, the you, the I you're talking about, you don't even know what that is. Your whole life revolves around this I that when you investigate, it's not even there. It's what I'm saying. What does this do to the justice system, to locking people up? I replied to that comment at the time, this was a while ago, and I said, look, don't even worry. Most of the world doesn't think like this. Everyone believes, the majority of people believe they have free will, and that's just how the world is. Unless everyone's going to get spiritual, unless everyone's going to get philosophical, these questions won't matter. It's only to a few people that are into these teachings that will benefit from these teachings. Having said that, have you ever noticed over time, people are more loving, understanding, accepting? Because look what happened many generations ago. People would just say, they're evil, lock them up. No excuses. But then over time, it's happening now. People go, oh, what was happening in their life to commit that crime? Do they have mental health issues? What I'm saying is people are more understanding to people that do the wrong thing these days. We still lock people up, but we still ask, but why did they do it? Is it a mental illness? Did they have a bad upbringing? See, we try to understand why people do the wrong thing. So slowly over time, we are more accepting. We are more forgiving. But we also need to acknowledge that we live in a society. You don't just let wild animals run loose because they're going to rip everyone to shreds. You need to lock them up in the zoo, animals. So people that are unfortunately conditioned to be violent, to disrupt society, we have to lock them up because they're going to wreak havoc. But at the same time, we can understand we don't need to hate them. They can't control what they're doing, but unfortunately we can't release them on society if they can't control that behavior. So again, this is why I love these videos on free will. And I know free will is held so deeply to a lot of people. And to prove that point, many years ago on social media, I used to post on all these spiritual type pages. I used to write spiritual stuff. People would like that stuff. Random people would like it. And then they'd add me on Facebook. Also at the time, I would write on Facebook posts, spiritual posts. People would like it. It's funny, but when I would write anything about free will, I would get a few comments. People would get heated and in a sense angry. I remember some people, I do something about free will. The next day, they made a comment. The next day, they've defriended me. Could have been a coincidence, but I feel like they defriended me because they believe in free will so much. And I was saying, I don't think it exists. I wasn't even aggressive about it. But what I'm saying is people hold free will very close to their heart. You know why? Because our ego, what is our ego again? Identity, ownership, and control. You're attacking ego. If you attack ownership and control, the ego is getting very uncomfortable. The ego is fine with spirituality as long as you don't attack it. As long as you're a spiritual person, free to do the right thing, free to do spiritual practice, free to judge others, ego's fine. But when you say, hang on, ego, I think there's 2 out of 3 parts of you that is a problem, the ego can get defensive. The ego says, this spirituality is not fun anymore. Attack. But the ego is like a toxic friend. When you believe in ownership and control, it's always going to mess up your life. The sense of identity is fine, like I said. It gives you the miracle of experience. I feel like I'm here so I can experience you there. Experience all of creation, no problem. But ownership and control, just see their illusions and you'll get so much more peace and happiness in your life. That's all I wanted to say in this video. Thanks again for commenting, liking, sharing and subscribing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, take care of yourselves, okay? See ya.